All right. Hey guys, this is Trevor, and I got Jared Gant here. Jared, say hi to everybody.
Hey, MagMod community.
Excellent. Guys, we're here for another one of these How I Shot It live interviews, and like I said, I'm excited to have Jared here. Jared, it was funny as I was going through the MagMod community and looking at the different photos and things, I was like, man, this guy has to be one of the most liked people in the MagMod community. And the reason I say that is, I mean, when I'm referring to the photos, I looked back on literally over the last couple of years that you've been in there, one after another of these photos would have like 200 likes, 300 likes, 400 likes. It was crazy how often I saw your name with all these likes on these photos. So thank you. Thank you for posting your awesome work and sharing it with the rest of us. And so grateful that you were able to join us for this interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, we do these live interviews about once a week in our MagMod community, which is on Facebook. It's a group there. Just search MagMod community. You can find us. And then in the community, when we do these live broadcasts, you can actually ask questions to Jared. And hopefully Jared will have all the answers for you. Right, Jared?
We'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. If not, I'll send you over to Trevor.
There you go. Awesome. Well, there's comments. You might have saw some of these from Matt where he says, way to go, Jared, and Diane. Woohoo. Let me mark my calendar. I love it. Things like that. So, so we're excited. And guys, again, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put those in here. You must have paid somebody for this one here. Sean Laura, what a hunk.
Gosh. Hi, Sean.
Excellent. But so guys, again, the reason we do these videos is so that we can bring amazing photographers on. They can share some of their photos and then show us how they created these images. They can talk about a little bit of the lighting they use, maybe what they were going through in their minds. Jared actually had some behind the scenes as well that you're going to share with us. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, Jared. Is that cool?
Yeah. Let me just get this screen share up here. All right, you guys are seeing screen, right?
It is coming any second. Let's see. Nope, not yet. Maybe we
Not
can
yet.
pull it over.
Let's see here. Let's try this one more time. Are you seeing it?
There we go. Yep.
Cool. So let me just get this set up here. All right. So this is a particular shot I shot at. Well, let's take a step back and tell a little bit about the gear. So most of the time, I'm using the Godox 8200, just small, compact, easy, and allows me to get right in there real quickly. And typically, it provides enough power output that I can do pretty much whatever I need to with it. So this shot is showing just the ambient lighting. This bride, this was actually a pool in her backyard, and right after she got dressed, we started walking around doing bridals and went outside in the middle of the day and took a couple nice ambient natural lit shots like this. But I want to do something a little bit more dynamic. I wanted the reflection in the pool to be a little bit stronger. And so we started, and so this is what we came up with. This is what we created. Let me go one more over. This will show you the behind the scenes shot here. You can see on the right side, right here, I have my assistant holding the light above the bride with, again, that 8200. And if I remember correctly, it had a grid and a sphere on it. No gels or anything like that. And I'm on the other side of the pool, laying down as close to the edge of the pool as I can, so I can just kind of get right on that horizon line and where I can get that good reflection. And then essentially, I am just underexposing this by probably a stop or two to shoot it, and then when I went to edit it in post, I lit up the bouquet just a little bit more because the light didn't quite hit that. Added a little bit more vignette, cloned out the assistant that was there, and that's what we came up with.
I love this image, and I love the fact that the difference between doing this. Some people might say, well, you could do something like this in post. You can just darken down around her, but my goodness, the amount of work that it would take to actually go in there and darken it. And then on top of that, you wouldn't have the dimension, like the shadows and stuff in the dress and, the way the light's actually falling on her. Beautiful shot. And I love that reflection. It's a great way of using that, getting super low. You must have had your camera like literally resting above the water, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned post. Of course, you could do a lot of things in post, and you could do a lot of layering and et cetera. But I shoot a lot of volume. I shoot a lot of weddings, and the idea of of getting through my edits quickly so I can get them back to my client as quickly as possible and give them that value is really important to me. And so being able to do as much in camera as possible where I can, get a high quality edit within just a few minutes of editing, or even a few seconds, honestly, with a preset or something that I've designed for that is really ideal for me. So in as often as possible, I like to get it done in camera.
I love it. Jared, can you show real quickly one more time just the kind of before after? In other words, the shot ambient light. So there's ambient.
Yeah. So here's ambient, and I like this as well. And we delivered a few shots like this.
Yeah.
But more of just my signature style is a little bit heavy on the OCF, and so this is what we created. This is the behind the scenes. So this is the same shot just prior to the edit.
The one with the flashes, I just feel so much more dynamic though. It's awesome. I love it.
Right, sure, for sure. And again, super simple edit as well. Just simply cloning out the assistant here, and then creating a little bit more of a vignette, darkening, dropping the shadows a bit, and that was it. Like it wasn't like it was an intensive edit by any means.
Yeah, I love it. Cortland says, "Get it, Jared."
Awesome.
And of course, you got Chad Winstead says, "Jared is the man."
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it.
and then Ruben's just reminding you not to be nervous.
If I seem nervous, you guys, tell me if I do. I'll try to slow down a bit.
I think you sound great, man. Hey, thank you so much. That image is amazing. I love it, and I don't see any questions about it. But again, guys, if you have any questions, and also I just want to stress to everyone too as well. A lot of times people are watching these shows outside of the live broadcast. So if you are watching this show outside of live broadcast, feel free to ask some of those questions just in the comment thread or even on YouTube. And either myself or Jared will jump in there occasionally and just kind of see what kind of questions are coming up and be able to answer those for you guys. So,
yep, for sure.
Awesome. So Jared, let's check out another image.
Okay, so let me go over to this one. So this is let's see here. This is a real simple, easy shot. But the reason I want to show this is so many times with OCF or with MagMod products, and we're doing lighting, we're doing them at sunset, doing it when it's dark. But I use lighting in the middle of the day all the time, just simply for fill. So in this particular shot, I'm just exposing for the ambient, but they're backlit. So obviously their face, the front side, is in the shadow, obviously you could adjust your exposure to light them up so you could see those details in their faces or in their expressions. But then you would lose a lot of that color and a lot of that detail that's behind them. This was obviously shot in the fall, so we had those aspens changing, turning yellow. The grasses in the foreground were starting to turn that brown. So it was just wanted to make sure we showed as much of that strong, vibrant color as possible. So all I'm doing here is filling the front of them with this light, and I'm still trying to get them moving. I'm still trying to get some of that interest of movement and back and forth. So they're walking towards my assistant. She's walking backwards very carefully, not to fall, and just filling them from the front here. And so again, very, very simple shot that I think anyone could do in just a matter of moments. Don't have to think too much about it, but it just creates so much more detail on the front of them, and just allows for the shot to be so much, just have a lot more color to it.
And I think that's the key right there, Jared, is you're talking about the color, is because you could expose the scene properly to have their faces. I mean, right now, if without the flash, they would be in the shadows. So you could expose it properly to have their faces, look nice and so forth. But then your colors behind them, like you said, wouldn't be nearly as vibrant. It would be, you wouldn't have that contrast there. Everything would be a lot brighter for them to be exposed properly. So you use that sun. It looks like the sun is hitting them behind, right? That's the light that's hitting them from behind.
Yeah, that's correct. Uh-huh.
And then the flash in front, just to be able to. I love how you'd explain that, to bring vibrance and color to the shot. It's such a good point.
Yeah, and the only modifier used here is just the sphere, which I use, between the sphere and the grids and the gels, I guess those are three that I use the most. But on here, I just have the sphere, and it's just pointing at them just to soften up the light just a teeny bit. Uh-huh. And that's it. Real simple. And we could do, I'll show you in one of the other photos I'll show here in a minute. You could do this with a lot of movement. I do the same kind of setup with them dancing or with them dipping or with any type of movement. And that's what I love about it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be quite so stationary.
Love it. Hey, Jared, go ahead and come back to the picture real quick. I want to bring you on live here for a second.
Okay.
Chad says he wants to see your face.
All right. Let me do this. Here we go. Okay.
Tell us real quick. You had mentioned just a second ago. You said you liked the MagSphere, the MagGrid, and what was the other one you said? Was it the gel?
Yeah, the gels. I use the gels a lot, a ton. Same, type of thing that you've taught before. I almost always have an orange or a blue gel. I have two gel holders, so I always have a orange in one and a blue in the other, and just depending on the sunset and the lighting and the coloring that I'm going for, I'll go back and forth between the two. But I use those all the time.
Yeah, I found that a lot of times, depending on if that sky is blue, but I want it bluer, then I'll use the orange, or vice versa. If I get a nice sunset, but I'm like, ooh, I could really, accentuate this and make this even crazier, then I'll go ahead and throw on, like, let's say an orange, or excuse me, a blue, and make it even oranger, make it apocalyptic looking sunset. So.
Yeah, last night I did engagements. It started to snow, and the sky was just gray and white, had absolutely no color to it whatsoever. So did the same thing. We went to the Kelvin, dropped it down, 3500, something like that, got it nice and blue in camera, and then added that full CTO on there, and that properly corrected the color on them. And it looks great. And so then when you see it with the snow falling in the sky, again, it looks more appropriate with that blue. It adds just so much more to it than it would if it was just white or gray or something like that.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I appreciate the explanation. You love shooting sunsets, right? I think I saw a sunset photo in there. Can you share that one with us?
Yeah, so Colorado has some pretty amazing sunsets going over the Rockies, and a lot of my clients, that is a big important element of their day. We almost always step out at sunset and try to get as much color in as we can. So let me pull up one of these and go back to the screen share. So here is just a behind the scenes of how I do it. So on this, and I'll show you a couple other shots that I created, but this is the behind the scenes showing how simple it is. I have a CTO on there as well as a sphere, and then again in camera drop down that Kelvin to get it nice and blue. And typically I like to shoot overhead a little bit higher so the shadows are dropping downward. Mm-hmm. And here, this particular bride and groom, they were about to go in and do their first dance, and it was perfect because they had choreographed something, and so it was nice just to have them go out and practice it and capture that. So we allowed them to dance. Let's see here. Allowed them to dance, and this is what we're capturing. Oftentimes, I will clone out my assistant, but even more often than not is I'll just consider how I'm going to finish the crop. And so instead of having to spend that time cloning them out, I will just crop them out. And so I do that a lot, and that's what you're seeing right here. And again, you can see all the different shots. The lighting assistant just standing there kind of following around, trying to keep the bride lit up really well. And then afterwards, we went into just some more traditional posing and allowed them just to have a little bit of fun. But you can see all these different sunset shots that take advantage of that color, that blue that we're mentioning with those gels. And this is all in a matter of like 10 minutes. We stepped out for about 10 minutes during sunset to do this.
Yeah. I love it, man. And it's funny. A couple things that I picked up from what you said there is the idea of being able to tell a couple, like, hey, just practice your first dance for a second. You guys are going to walk in here in about 10 minutes. You're going to have a first dance. Just go ahead and practice it a little bit. And then during that time, you can, grab those shots. I also notice you tend to have your assistant there. Do you do that a lot where you have an assistant move with the light stand, or do you like to use a stationary light stand? What is kind of your preference?
Yeah, so I'm so fortunate that I have a handful of assistants that are learning photography all in their own right and happy to come work with me. So I, as often as I can, will have an assistant there. It just allows me to focus on what I'm doing, and I will talk to them beforehand and explain to them where I want the light. So as the couple's moving, they know where to put the light. And I do a lot of either backlighting or 90-degree lighting or fill lighting. And so throughout the day, if I can't communicate to them verbally, like if we're on the dance floor, I'll hold up one finger, and this means backlighting, get behind them. If I hand up an L, that's meaning 90-degree, get to the side of them. And so that's just how my hand signals are for them to direct them where I need them. But yeah, as frequently as I can, I'll have an assistant there. And you mentioned also the dancing and moving. It's tough, for me at least, when I'm doing lighting, I feel like my poses my shots start to get very posy and very stagnant, and I like to have as much movement and true, sincere reaction as possible. So by having them dance, and that's almost one of the things I always fall to. Hey, you guys going to do and I'll do this in an engagement session as well. You guys going to do a dance? Do you guys have any plans for this? And we'll discuss things of that nature. And almost always they have a dance planned, or they like to dance, and so that's something I fall onto to allow them to just relax and start moving, and get those real reactions, that excitement.
That's awesome. I love it. Mm-hmm. Hey, Jared, before we go on, Cortland had a question about the reflection shot.
Yeah.
The question is, for the reflection shot, did you shoot this in high-speed sync, or did you keep it at 1/200th and under?
Yeah. Let me double check here. I think I know the answer, but let me just tell you. So that particular shot, yeah, for sure, was shot in high-speed sync. Settings for that was 1/25,000th of a second, or 2,500th of a second. Sorry, I was looking at it wrong. But anywho, in just ISO 100 2.8. That's how we had that set up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
And then I'll just throw this out here as well. Edwin, he says, excellent job explaining explicit, clear, and simple language everyone can understand. Great job, Mag friends. I love it. It's
okay,
true.
well,
I will say, Jared, you're doing a great job as far as explaining, and I love these behind the scenes as well.
I was just going to say, it's sometimes the explaining part. I'm glad that you said that, Edwin, because sometimes everyone, once they get the swing of things and they start with the flow of shooting, it becomes second nature, you guys. And that's what's so awesome about MagMod is you don't have to pause and think too much about the modifiers you're going to use. There's just a handful of small ones. Once you get really familiar with what they do to the light, you just throw them on and just start shooting. You can spend all that time, I guess, paying attention to your clients instead of your gear, which is important for me. And so it's hard for me sometimes to step back and reverse engineer and try to remember, what color gel did I throw on that, or what kind of modifier did I throw on it, because I've done it long enough now that it's really become second nature. And when you start working with MagMod, it really does become second nature real quickly.
Yeah, I love the fact that you pointed out there's just a few, those few modifiers, and you get really familiar with them. And then I love the fact that you can keep them on you at all times. Like literally, I just swing open my bag and it's all just sticking, sitting right in the bag. I don't have to like run out to my car and go grab something or whatever. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I have a little bag or a little thing on my stand that I'll just sometimes throw them right onto that, and they'll magnetize onto it. So they're just right there. It's so simple.
That's awesome. Good deal. So, hey, Jared, why don't you tell us, let's see, we went through the pool shot, we did the dancing. I think you had showed me a few of your images prior. There was the sunset one, the vertical sunset.
Yep. You want me to pull up the sunset there?
I guess we just went through it pretty quick. And then we had, I'm trying to remember what was the other one after that. Maybe you can pull up the remaining photos there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go over here to the screen share again.
Hey, while you're pulling that up, Jared, Ben had a question about flash power. He's wondering, do you do manual or TTL?
Yeah, so great question, Ben. So I have gone back and forth, and I've used both a lot in the last, since I started photography. It really depends on the situation. If I am trying to be quick and just run and gun it, and I feel pretty confident with Godox's TTL, and I've used it a lot. But at the same time, when you use a lot of flash, you can enter a room or enter a situation, and typically you can get it pretty darn close in manual. Keep in mind, when you go to TTL, you lose a lot of power. And so when you can go to manual, when you have just maybe an extra 20 seconds to think about it and make those minor tweaks, then go manual. But if you're just trying to run and gun and get more familiar with flash and what it does to your images, then throw it in TTL. And you will still create beautiful images using TTL, and then you'll get more familiar with where to place your lights with TTL. Yeah. And then again, once you can make that jump from TTL to manual, do so. You're going to be able to do a lot more creative things.
I will say, yeah, just to add to that, Jared, I will say I love manual settings, only because when I tend to have a light behind the subject, it's really difficult to shoot with TTL because it's going to affect your the performance of that flash in the front.
Sure.
So like on reception dance floors and stuff like that. So I agree with you. I think that was a great explanation as far as like if you are running a gun and you're just like, hey, throw it on TTL, let's go. But it's I highly encourage everyone out there to try to practice as much as you can on manual so you feel comfortable doing it. So when it does come time game time that you can switch to manual and still be able to manage it pretty easily. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And also with the 80, what is it, the 600, whatever that one's called. Cool thing about that one as well, again, as you're getting familiar with manuals, you can fire a shot in TTL and then go to manual, and it will automatically be in the setting that it shot that one at in TTL. So you can shoot one in TTL, kind of get a base, and then make the small adjustments that you need to kind of hone in the lighting and do what you want to with it.
The 8200 does that with that the X. What do they call this? The
Pro
R2 Pro. Yeah. When you hold down that TCM switch, that's a really cool feature that you can basically shoot TTL and then hold down the TCM and it will switch it over to manual settings. Pretty neat.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's totally awesome. So again, if you're the thing that I find with a lot of people with flash is it's a bit intimidating. It's a fourth dynamic that you have to adjust. So go into TTL, shoot that shot, look and see what the setting is, look at the image and see what you think about it. If you like it, then just put it into manual. That way you're getting faster recycle times, and then fire away. And again, that's going to get you more familiar with when you walk into a room and you see, okay, hey, this needs to be 132nd power, whatever. It'll get you familiar with that.
Yeah, love it. I got to throw this comment up by Chad Winstead. He says, "Were you born this awesome, or did it come naturally?"
That's not going to answer that.
So, for those who are watching this, Chad did our How I Shot It interview last week. So
I went and played around with some of the, what are they called, the plotographs? Is that what they're called, right? Yeah. They're fun. They're way fun. I actually, one of the shots I have here that we might go over if we have time is a cigar shot, and that's always cool to get that movement of the smoke from the cigar.
Awesome. Well, let's do it. Let's actually talk about more of your photos.
Cool. Let me go back over here. Screen share this. So we'll go right into this cigar shot. Are you seeing that now?
Not yet.
Let's see here. Come on. There?
Yep. Now we got it.
Awesome. So this has been done. It's not an original thing for me, but clients love it. They eat this up like no other. So every cigar or every wedding that has a cigar bar, the groom and the groomsmen are going to have cigars. If they've seen this on your website, there's no doubt they're going to ask for it. And it's so fun. It doesn't take a lot of time to set up. And again, they love it. The groom, I shot this June-ish or so middle last summer, and this particular shot has been the groom's Facebook profile ever since, and it's been fun. So what we've done here is I walk out and trying to find a darker background. I'm trying to get away from some of the ambient lighting, so I have full control of the lighting here. I have one light behind the groom, probably an 8200, and I have a CTB on there and a sphere, and that's directly behind him, probably about shoulder height. I want it below his shoulders just slightly so that it's not shooting right into the camera, and I have it somewhat pointed upward as well to get as much of that smoke in the shot as we can and light that up. So that is what's lighting up all this smoke behind him. And again, I'm aiming it just typically right towards the back of his neck or his head, right in that area, because I don't quite know where the smoke's going to go, so I want it to be able to light it up on either side. And I always like, and I'll do this with all the groomsmen with his best man and everything, but I always like while they're lighting the cigar to get that shot, because again, there's a little bit more action there, a little bit more movement. It's just more authentic. The flame usually when it's starting to light the cigar, it flares up a little bit as it's redding. So I like to try to make sure I get that shot as they're lighting it up. And so one light behind him, the other light is on this side, just to the right. Uh-huh. Again, I watch the groom and I'm seeing if he's right-handed or left-handed, because I want to keep in mind where that shadow is going to be cast. So if he's left-handed, I don't want to have it to. I want it to be to the open side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, there's no shadow from his hand being thrown across his chin or onto the cigar or anything like that. So on this shot, the light is to the right. I believe it's a double stack grid pointing right at him. It's about 5 feet away. Real simple, and just had him light it up. As he's lighting, I'm taking the shots and waiting for that flame to go up. And that's pretty much it. I like to crop in a little bit more. I'll shoot this a little bit wider so I have a little bit more flexibility with the crops. I can do something a little bit more creative. And I have the resolution to be able to crop it quite a bit, so it's not a huge deal. So yeah, typically if you were to see this straight out of camera, it would be backed out a little bit. You would see the top of his head and probably his full hand and everything. But when I went ahead and edited this, I did a nice tight crop there.
I love it. It's such a great shot. I agree with you. The guys, they love these shots. What's really fun is when you shoot it and then you turn your camera around and show it to them, and they all just start to freak out. They're like, "Dude, get one of those of me, man!" You know, it's
oh yeah, you'll get a line. You'll get a line of
Yep.
10, 15 guys, coming out to get these exact same shots. And again, real simple. Every single one, you just shoot the same way. You can go through them, and I'll typically shoot the groom with each one of his groomsmen and also with his dad,
Yeah.
doing this. And then oftentimes I will do another one with all the groomsmen and the bride. I'll have her come out and give a little sassy look where she's turning over her shoulder or something fun like that. And I'll back that light back a little bit so it's further behind them. And then I will essentially, tell them, hey, get the smoke going. They'll start puffing smoke a little bit. I oftentimes will have the can aerosol, and if I have that with me, I'll have my assistant spray a little bit of that in the air as well, just to increase the amount of smoke that's around them. And then instead of the light being directly to the right, I have to pull it forward so again it can flash across all of the groomsmen. It can get a little bit of each one of them, and I will stagger them so that if I'm shooting from the right, the groom furthest to the left is slightly forward, right? So it's catching all of them, so none of them are casting shadows on each other.
Nice.
And then that's how that's done with a full group.
The only thing I'll say about the canned aerosol is make sure if you're using it that it stays away from an open flame.
Is it flammable? I didn't. You're probably right. I probably could have killed a groom.
Yeah, it is flammable. So I always just say, just make sure that if you're spraying it, like spray it like in the distance behind them. But
yeah.
But you do make a good point though, Jared, with regards to the lighting. In order to get that smoke to really light up, like you have it in this shot here, you really do need some kind of lighting it from the side or from the back. Something. It's funny. You can even watch guys smoking outside, like smoking a cigar, and you'll see a group of them, and you won't even see smoke behind them. And then all of a sudden, you put a flash and you light it up, and there's just smoke everywhere.
Sure.
So it's like it's only visible if you light it correctly, or at least visible in a good way, like you see it here. So.
Yeah. And for those who might try it with the aerosol, obviously I always spray it behind them because the light's behind them as well. So I'm trying to get it between the light and between them, and so that's where it's going to be. I wouldn't spray it in front of them, and because I don't want that smoke to go over their faces or in front of them and kind of create some funky distortion or something in front of them. So it's always behind them, over their shoulders, where I would spray it.
Love it. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump into. So I did mention a little bit earlier. I'll go to this one. I mentioned how I do reception lighting, and so when I typically for reception lighting, I will have two lights up on light stands towards the back, and I'll have them pretty high powered because I like to close down my aperture so that they create a little bit of a starburst. So you'll see a lot of my shots where I'm doing that, and then I'll have an assistant. I have such amazing assistants. I couldn't do what I do without them, but I have my assistants running and gunning with the lights, oftentimes just in hand, or I have a small paint stick basically with a little thing on top of it that will hold my flash. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I will lift a single finger. I'll point one finger up, and that's meaning backlighting. I want you behind them. And so oftentimes for a first dance or something like that, I will do a lot of backlighting with them, or if there's anything super fun about to happen, right? Like in this particular shot, this is the groom and one of his groomsmen pouring wine on his face. This is in a wedding in Cancun, and it was like unlimited wine. So instead of going and getting a glass, they were going and getting bottles and just having fun with it. And so directly behind them, that's what's allowing all those splashes that's coming off his face and everything to really light up and be defined and to be able to see those. And then, if during the kind of just more of the natural dancing, the fun dancing, I do almost all 90-degree side lighting. And again, I'll hold it up. I'll have my assistant hold it up nice and high, focus on an individual that we're trying to photograph, mm-hmm. and that's going to create that nice fall off where one side's nicely lit, the other side's nice and dark. And that also allows all the color that they've paid a lot of money for, oftentimes the uplighting on the walls and everything like that, to show up versus just shooting the light up into the sky and bouncing it everywhere. It's just more directed, creates just more dynamic, more interest in it.
Love it. That's awesome. This is like a reception lighting 101 course right now.
So yeah, and occasionally as well, and I know a lot of people occasionally I will have an on-camera flash just to do fill. Not always though. More often than not, I don't. But if I do have a flash on camera for fill, I will lift up the bounce card that's built in. I'll lift that up and I'll put the sphere on top of it, and it works very similarly to the bounce, the mag bounce, and I'll use that as well. But I like to just have the sphere. I'll put that on there with the bounce card up, and so that's going to direct it mostly forward for me.
Yeah, it keeps that light from escaping out the back as much. More up, side, and forward. So I've done that as well. Kind of a fun little trick. So again, for those who aren't familiar, in fact, maybe I have one right here.
What are you looking for?
Oh, I was just going to show what you meant about the bounce card. And
I got one right.
I got one as well.
That one? Okay.
All right, if you have it, I'll let you do it.
Oh, I don't have. No, you're fine. I don't have my sphere with me. It's in my other bag. I just used it last night, so it's in my other bag. But this is obviously what we're talking about right here. So just built into almost every flash at the very top. You can pull that out, push the rest down, just have the bounce card sticking straight up, and then just put that sphere right over top of it like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, it just kind of keeps a bunch of light going out the backside, essentially, and just kind of, like you said, kind of bouncing that light forward and using it if you're using it on camera. So.
Sure. You'll lose if you're just using the sphere by itself without that. You'll lose a lot to the back. So I'll oftentimes tilt it forward so I don't lose quite so much backwards. Or just use the bounce. The bounce is awesome too. So you do either one.
Bounce is kind of my go-to receptions when I'm doing on-camera stuff, but I love it. Hey Jared, we're just about ready to wrap this up, but I think there's one more image that we haven't talked about yet. Is it?
Let me. I have another. Let me go backward to the screen share. All right, so last one I was going to show you. This is a fun behind the scenes. I posted this one up the other day, and a lot of people were reacting to it. So like we mentioned earlier, I love to get sunsets, get a lot of cool sky, to show up those clouds, to underexpose that ambient. And when doing this, I oftentimes try to get my clients up on a hill, or I try to get down low in a ditch or something like that, so I can elevate them. So pretty much their full backdrop is going to be sky. I love doing that. Clients love it as well. And so when you can do that, just find a hill. And I've even done this. I've even done this in a parking lot. Like in a parking lot, there will be a little hill in between the island or whatever. And I will get the client up on top of that, and I will get down as low as I can, and that just elevates them enough that you're shooting above the cars and the buildings. And so this is a golf course right here, and there's a lot of weddings at golf courses, and oftentimes they have homes all around them. And this particular couple, they're not golfers. It was just a convenient place for their wedding, so they weren't looking to show off the green or anything like that at the golf course. So again, just found one of the hills that was off the green or whatever, the main area that was a bit more natural. Got them up there towards the top. Had my amazing assistant, put that light up as high as we could. And on here, I think I have a CTO and a sphere is what I have on there. And then just dropped that Kelvin down to get nice blue sky. And underexposed it probably about 2, maybe 3 stops, and fire away. And then again, while they're up there, this is how we did it. Instead of and I actually cloned him out in another one as well, but I always like just to make it easy and crop. But then you can do verticals. You can do a lot of different things with that. So this is all that same couple. Same idea, and I'll shoot nice and wide, but I'll also go in there nice and tight as well. I always shoot with the 24 to 70 under one arm and a 70 to 200 under the other, and so I can get these massive environmental little people type shots, or go to that 200 millimeter and zoom right in and get those clouds punchy right behind them.
Yeah, a nice compression on that 200. Awesome. Love it. Love it. You got. I have another question here from Ben's asking about the Kelvin. He says, do you drop the Kelvin during the shoot or in post?
Great question. So I've done both as well. So this is the thing is, as you're learning what works best, you need to experiment and you need to try things. I've done it when I first started trying to push Kelvin and push color and stuff like that. I would still keep it in auto. I would throw on the CTO or CTV, and then in post I would correct it. Right, and it does the same concept, but I've gotten to the point where I'm shooting enough that if I can get it in camera, where I just import it into Lightroom, apply my preset that I've designed, and literally make maybe just a couple minor tweaks to exposure and a few things like that, and be done with the image. That's ideal for me. So that's what I'd prefer to do. But again, for someone who's not familiar with Kelvin and adjusting that and what it's going to do, you can do it in post, and you'll still create amazing results. It's not going to hold you back too much. It's just going to be a little bit more work afterwards.
Yeah, I've found that what I enjoy doing is when you can do it in camera, to be able to turn around and show it to the clients, and so you can see it right away. And then also the other thing I love doing is when I'll do like a quick slideshow towards the end of the night in the reception, being able to toss those photos up, just literally because the way I shoot it is I'll shoot RAW on one card and then JPEGs on the other, and so I just take the JPEGs and use this, create a slideshow from that. So it's nice being able to have the color look amazing. So you're right. Sure. You can absolutely, like you're saying, you can totally do this in post, but it's so much more rewarding to do it in camera because you're just like, woo, I rocked it. It looks amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for your clients as well, when you're shooting, if you notice a shot like, wow, that's a really cool one, show it to them every single time. You will see them, that you'll see them relax so much more. They'll feel so much more confident in what you're doing. And from that point on, the posing cues or whatever you're telling them to do, they're not going to hesitate anymore. It just helps them relax so much. So exactly right. If you can do it in camera where it looks great and be able to flip around and show them the screen, let them look through a couple of them, maybe even. That's awesome. Then also something I love to do is at dinner time when I'm sitting down, I will shoot a couple photos over to my phone and I'll text them over to the bride from that day. And so, one of the frustrating things is at the end of the night, the bride posts a selfie on Facebook, and you always want them to have a beautiful photo from their wedding day right away. And so again, by getting it done in camera, most cameras have the ability to, just to send the photo right over to your phone. And so if I have time during dinner, I'll sit through there and I'll pick a couple of them. I'll shoot them over to my phone. And if it's done correctly in camera, you don't need to do anything to it. It's done. It's good enough at that point. Text over to the bride, and by the end of the night, she'll oftentimes have seen it and will recognize that you went out of your way to give them something special to take back, to have that night.
I love it. Such a good point. Hey, Jared, I think this is probably a good little comment to wrap things up with. Cortland's wondering, he says, great stuff, man. How long have you been doing weddings, doing photography and weddings in general?
Professionally, I've been doing it since 2012. That's kind of when I decided I was going to change jobs and pursue this. So early 2013, I quit my daytime job, and I've been doing it full-time ever since. So this is my full-time job. In high school, I did photography, but it was film, quite a bit different, and it was mostly focused on developing film and stuff like that. So it was a little bit different, but I've always had an interest in photography. Back in the day, it was always taking pictures of us hitting the dirt jumps and stuff on our bikes and stuff like that. So I had a camera as a kid. I had above my bed as a kid, I had a huge collage of photos that I had taken of my friends and things like that. So again, photography's always had a spot in my heart and been really meaningful to me. But it's just been, six years or so that I've been doing it full time.
Excellent. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, Jared, we super appreciate it, man. Ross is over here saying, great job, Jared, kicking butt in Colorado. Which, actually, Jared, tell us real quick, for those who want to check out more of your work, where can we find your website, your Instagram, that kind of stuff?
So Instagram is probably the most active place. It's I post on there minimum five times a week, oftentimes more. And that is just JM Gant Photography, all one word. So JM's my first two initials, Gant's my last name, and then photography. Okay. Facebook as well. You can find me there, JM Gant Photography. I'm up on all the social platforms, so and pretty much if you search Jared Gant or JM Gant, you should be able to find me pretty easily. Website's jmgantphotography.com. So that's where you can find me. Come find me and like it. I'm trying to grow my Instagram following a lot this year. It's a big push for me.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely do that. And then, Jared, lastly, you're going to be at WPPI. You're going to be speaking at the MagMod booth. Do you remember? I don't have the schedule in front of me. I think is it Tuesday? What day? Do you remember?
Yeah, if it's Tuesday, I want to say it's 2:30, if I remember correctly.
In the afternoon. So,
yep.
So definitely, guys, if you're at WPPI, or if you're planning on attending in Las Vegas, WPPI 2018, come check out Jared. He's going to be speaking at the MagMod booth and sharing some more photos, as well as talking about how he creates them. And then, of course, if you guys have any questions for Jared, you can ask him there as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And guys, if anyone watching this not live after the fact, if you have any additional questions, feel free to shoot me a PM or message me, or I'll try to follow the thread as well and answer any of those. I'm an open library, so ask me any questions, you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jared. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for watching and for the questions and comments. We got different Jeff Wilkins, one of my favorite photographers out of Canada, is saying, "Hey, Jared." So you got you got some awesome comments in there. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. And Jared, thank you. Thanks for taking the time, man. Really looking forward to seeing you at WPI in a couple weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you as well, Trevor.
All right. Take care, Jared.